Okay, my friends, here it is. In this video, I'm going to explain to you the 5 biggest mistakes that I made last season so that you don't have to repeat them. So we're going to go in descending order from least important or least bonehead to the most important and impactful. But before we get into it, I just want to let you guys know that I've been getting a lot of questions about when to start seeds. And so I have made a free seed starting calendar. The link is in the description. Just go there and you will get the free seed starting calendar that will tell you exactly when you should start the seeds in your particular zone. So make sure you get it. Now, number 5 is the Sapporo Giant. Now, we messed around last year with an experiment from Baker Creek, Sapporo Giant. It is a giant cabbage. And it rang true. I mean, it held true to the description. It got absolutely massive, guys. Look at this cabbage. This thing is by far the biggest cabbage I've ever grown and that I've ever even seen in person. Probably 30 pounds. I mean, it was a monstrosities. Okay, so that's all wonderful if you're sort of growing for that purpose. If you're in a competition or if you're ego growing, oh, that's wonderful. But here's the thing, all right? We sliced it up and we sauteed it and it was delicious. Sauteed, super good, nice and sweet, unbelievably sweet. The sweetest cabbage that I've ever had. And still really tender even at 30 pounds, all right? But here's the problem. For us, we can only eat so much fresh cabbage before they start going bad. So we ferment tons of sauerkraut, all right? Now, here's the problem. The Sapporo Giant makes terrible sauerkraut, because we've been making it for years and we've got the system down, and this kraut is disgusting. It is sickeningly sweet just naturally because the Sapporo Giant is so sweet. I mean, sickening sweet, and because of the so much sugars in it, it turns soft. We have several other varieties downstairs in the fermenting fridge from our other stuff, and they are not soft and they are not sickening sweet like the Sapporo Giant. Therefore, we will not be growing this thing again. And it's unfortunate because we took up a whole bed just to grow 5 of them, all right? So we're not using that real estate in the same way this upcoming year. Mistake number 4, we overfed the greens. Now, this is not that big of a deal because as you can see here, the greens are still luscious and beautiful and delicious and flavorful, and we had virtually no pest pressure at all because everything was so incredibly healthy. But since I demand absolute perfection from my system and my garden, then if there's one thing, we overfed the greens, and so they became soft. They get really big really fast, but they break really easily, and they just get kind of soft. And so that's not ideal because it brings in the rot, all right? The pest pressure, there was still no pest, but the rot, because they were so big, so fast that they started getting that smell to where they kind of rotted. And so even though they were still big and beautiful, then all of a sudden they just kind of suddenly rotted. And that is because they were totally overfed, because I was experimenting, trying to push the bounds so that I could know the upper limits of the granular fertilizers that I am showing you guys how to make, okay? So for that reason, I overfed the greens. This upcoming year, we're gonna reduce that on the greens by half. And that will give us slightly smaller, but tighter and just more resilient greens. And this is true for most plants. If you have an overabundance of the nitro and the nutrients, then it can make them grow really big and wild, but just get kind of weak. You know, the cells have too much moisture, water in them and stuff. So we will be fine tuning that this upcoming year. All right, mistake number 3 on our way down to 1. And that would be that we waited too long to plant the cover crops. So here in this bed, here I am in the garden and it is like November, okay? So we wanted to wait till everything was totally finished because we have so much fall garden stuff that we didn't want to pull things early just to plant the cover crop so that we could green manure it in the springtime. So for that reason, the cover crop is barely rooted right now. So in the beds outside that I have cover cropped, you know, it's almost like just exposed soil, which if you guys know me and my philosophies, that's the #1 problem or mistake, is to leave your soil exposed over the winter. But I'm in a predicament where I can't really do much about that, because here in just another 2 months or 6 weeks, that stuff is going to, it's winter rye. So it's gonna boom, grow really thick, luscious. We're gonna mow it down, and we're gonna green manure it, okay? So that would be one of the mistakes, but at the same time, can I do anything different next year? I mean, am I gonna harvest all my good produce prematurely? No. We love going out into the garden in the middle of summer, or even late into fall, when we're wearing the hats and the hoodies and stuff, and to pick dinner all summer long, all fall, all spring, summer, and into fall, even into early winter. We are going out there and picking delicious, flavorful, nutrient-dense produce constantly. So I just don't want to give it up. It's like, but it's okay, because we don't need cover crops in this system like we do at the Viking North plot. At the Viking North plot, much bigger area that we have under cover, or that we have under cultivation. So we're not using granular fertilizers there. We can still use granular here, so that's why it's not that big of a deal, because we'll just use granular instead of the cover crop. But at the Viking North plot, we have to use the cover crop, because it's way too big to be using granular. So we're gonna use the green manure there. So for that reason, we did terminate things a little bit early, so that we got a good established patch of winter rye and a couple of other cover crops that are specifically chosen for green manures. Now, number 2 is gonna surprise a lot of you, because one of my always saying that the number 1 problem is for people and seed starting, what am I saying? That they started too early. And guess what I did last year? Well, I thought that because, the zones have changed and everything is changing now, all the season, the last frost dates, they're all changing, and everything's warming up. Yeah. Well, it was like that for the previous 4 or 5 years. Super early spring, super early summer. I mean, so I was like, hey, I'm gonna scoot everything back like a month and start it sooner, to get a jump on things. And guess what? We had a super late, super cold spring, and it just kept staying cold. And the peppers were like 12 weeks, man. And guys, when you have a setup like I do, where you're using actual grow lights, like this one. I mean, well, this is a seed starting. This is a Spider Farmer. It's a pretty good one. It's nothing like this thing, though. This is what I'm actually using. Mars Hydro 3000s. And these things start seed. I mean, you could flower the tomatoes under these things. But because I have such a good setup, they sprout and they grow so quickly. And so I was sitting there messing around for weeks, taking the plants out in the daytime, taking them back in at the nighttime, taking them in, taking them out, until the peppers just got so root bound and sickly looking that I had to plant them outside. So I planted the stuff outside, and it just stayed ridiculously cold. And so I had to do extremely bonehead measures, like I used to do in Northern California, to where I made a little greenhouse, and then I literally put a heater inside of the hoop house, and that kept them nice and toasty warm, kept them at 60, 65 degrees all night long, even though it was night after night in the low 30s. And that will stunt your pepper plants. Listen to me. That will stunt your pepper plants all summer long. They'll never recover. If they experience like 5 days in the 30s, even if they don't die, they'll just sit there and they just will not recover. So I did not let that happen. Obviously, because now here we are, and you can see in the summertime, the plants got massive. All that stuff was worth it. All of the effort was worth it. The plants got massive and huge, and we had wonderful results. So it was all well worth it. But this year, we are taking our own advice, and we are doing exactly like we used to do, and starting a bit later than everyone. Guys, just get the seed starting calendar, and then you'll know exactly when I start the seeds, okay? Except for last year when I started too early. Okay guys, so the number 1 boneheaded mistake, which is the most unfortunate of all, and I really am feeling it all winter long, it comes from starting too early, but I didn't watch the weather appropriately, and I put the onions out too early. Now, there's not a lot I could have done about this, except onions, I could have waited. I should have waited another 2 weeks, which is beyond. I planted them the same time I normally do, but we got hit with night after night, 15, 16, 17 degrees Fahrenheit, night after night. And so I would go out there and the little tiny onions are just frozen solid. Literally, they would just bust off. I mean, frozen solid like a rock. And so after like 2 weeks of extremely cold weather, unseasonably cold weather, we have not experienced in like 5 years at that time, they thought, listen guys, they thought that they went through a winter, and so they began to flower, all of them. Every onion that I had began to flower. And in case you don't know, onions are a biennial, meaning they produce the bulb the first year, all right? But then the second year, all they want to do is flower, reproduce. So once they start that flowering, once that hormone shift happens, there's nothing you can do. They do not recover. And so we pulled them all earlier than we should have. We still got a bunch of good ones, except, look guys, I mean, we got a number of good ones still, but most of them, or not most, but half, maybe even 2/3 are like this, okay? They're all starting to sprout. And this is ridiculously early. I don't get this until March, or April usually from the onions. And so I put them out way too early. It was a total tragedy, guys. So you have to learn from that, all right? So keep an eye on the weather. Do not start too early. I'm gonna have all kinds of tips and tricks coming up so that you guys can have massive success with seed starting. Put your ideas in the comment. What kind of stuff do you want to know about, all right? What kind of advice do you need? Also, if you like the look of what you saw, then you can replicate this yourself. I have made for you a course. The link is in the description, and the course will show you step by step in a very methodical, clear, easy to follow manner from wherever you're at now to elite level grower. It will take you there. It's all the knowledge, what you need to know. And the entire philosophy is producing the maximum amount of food for the least amount of work input, all while staying 100% organic. So click on the link below. Not only do you get immediate lifetime access to the course and all future upgrades, you also get lifetime access to the Viking tribe, which is the private community of like-minded individuals where you guys can ask each other questions, show each other pictures, and give each other advice, but also I will be in there every day answering questions that you guys have. So if you want it, link is in the description. Otherwise, I will see you right here every Saturday at 12 noon Eastern time for the live Q&A.